was thinking that rapture take place in these days. He anticipated, even disciples anticipated, but it took 2000 years. But now we are not, uh, we are not, need not to wait for 2000, another 2000 years, because situations are driving us to that point. Very specially, you believe me, you ask me any prophecy in the Bible about the eschatology related to the second coming, all are fulfilled. All are fulfilled, except except the revelation of Antichrist. Yeah, once he is revealed, there are so many other things will take at the rapid speed. After these things, entekai, the Greek word, with a rapid speed it will take off. Within that 7-year period, all those prophecies will be fulfilled, like building of the third temple, sacrifices for the third temple, and two witnesses for the first 3.5 years, and then Antichrist to take the throne in the middle of the 7 years, and then war in heaven, crush the Israel flee to the desert mountains for 1,260 days. All these things, they are all going to be fulfilled with a rapid speed. But the rapture, there is no sign is given. Only we have to wait and hear the trumpet sound. So the things are moving very fast, very especially Russia. Today's position is getting worse and worse. I'm going to give you a little bit of updates before I take the subject. Yeah, Russia, Ukraine updates. If you see here how they're close, these are all the Russia occupied territories. And they're very close to the Kiev, that's the capital of Ukraine. So, and things are getting more worse. Putin is somehow making all false and irrational arguments about his invasion. President Putin has frequently accused Ukraine of being taken over by extremists ever since its pro-Russian president Viktor Yanukovych was ousted in 2014 after months of protest against his rule. He was the puppet to Russia. He was removed. And then they have a new president, Zelensky. So many of President Putin's arguments were false and irrational. He claimed his goal was to protect people subjected to bullying and genocide and aimed for the demilitarization and denazification of Ukraine. He is thinking that today the Ukraine is ruling like Nazis and the military rule. That's not true. There has been no genocide in Ukraine. It's a vibrant democracy led by the president who is a Jew. Last year, President Putin wrote, describing Russian and Ukrainian as one nation. Listen very carefully. His claim, Russia and Ukraine is one nation. And he has described the collapse of Soviet Union in December 1991 as the disintegration of historical Russia. He has claimed modern Ukraine was entirely created by communist Russia and is now puppet state controlled by the West. This is what he is blaming about. It is now clear that Russia is seeking to overthrow Ukrainian democratically elected government. Its aim is that Ukraine be freed from oppression and cleansed of Nazis. That's unacceptable. His main problem is at NATO summit, the Putin in his NATO summit, the Bucharest in 2008, Putin claimed Ukraine is not even a state, but rather a part of Russian territory in Eastern Europe. On March 18, 2014, Putin, in his speech declaring the annexation of Ukrainian province of Crimea into sovereign Russian territory. This is the Crimean territory. This is annexed in 2014. He says it is annexed into the sovereign Russian territory. This is the Russian territory. Everything is Russian territory. And in his speech, there are some quotes are here. There are millions of Russians living in Ukraine and Crimea. That's true. Not Russians, but Russian-speaking people. Earlier it was Soviet Socialist Union of Social Soviet Republic. So Russia influence was more because it was the neighboring country. So naturally there are a lot of people speaking Russian language. That does not mean Russians are living there. And he claims as Crimea, it was and remain a Russian, Ukraine and Crimean Tatar land. That is Turkish group. That is a land of a Turkish group there, that time. As I have said many times already, Putin says, we are one people. Kiev is the mother of Russian city. Ancient Rus is from where the Russia and Ukraine and even Belarus, they're all created. This is ancient Rus. Our common source, and we cannot live without each other. See, it's a very clear that this is not given now. It is 2014. So Putin is directly or indirectly wants to take over Ukraine and make it the part of Russia. And here, Ladislav Sakov, one of Putin's most trusted advisor, has reportedly spoken of the need of Moscow to invade and reoccupy all of Ukraine, claiming that there is no such thing as independent Ukraine. And recently people started comparing Putin with Hitler, Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler came to the power when the economy was in doldrums, and he promised that he will make a greater, better Germany. And he wanted to see that economy is in a good state. He wanted to help, so people trusted him. They gave the power, and you know what happened. And he was the main cause culprit. He was the dictator, cruel dictator for the World War II. And Vladimir Putin, he is dreaming of a greater Russia, the Russia that was before 1991. The economic chaos of 1990s, but believes that Russia has now risen from its knees. It is not. Till today, Russian economy is not very sound. And NATO is actually the problem of Putin. Why? Russia is not just focused on Ukraine. It is not just Ukraine. See, we see only Ukraine is the target. No, but it demands that NATO returns to its pre 1997 borders. Mr. Putin wants NATO to remove its forces and military infrastructure from member states that joined the alliance from 1997, and not to deploy strike weapons near Russia's borders. That means Central Europe, Eastern Europe, and Baltics. So here, if you see this NATO nations joined since 1997 and after, before 1997, all these purple color, dark purple color, these are all before 1997. They are the NATO members. And after 1997, these 14 nations joined in NATO. They're all at the borders of Ukraine, Belarus, Russia. So he's afraid of NATO because all these forces, if you see here, there are so much of military deployed. Military persons are deployed here, borders of Belarus and Ukraine and Russia. So he doesn't want to see NATO occupying the Eastern Europe. And why he is angry? He says, let's imagine Ukraine is a NATO member and start these military operations. Are we supposed to go to war with NATO? See, Ukraine wants to join NATO. He's pleading with NATO to grant the membership. If it joins the NATO, as it is, Putin says that Ukraine is part and parcel of Russia. It is not a separate state. Then he says, do we have to fight NATO? Has anyone given any thought to this? Apparently not, he says. So he doesn't want to fight NATO. President Putin partly blamed his decision to attack on NATO's eastward expansion. He earlier complained Russia and nowhere further to retreat to do they think, well, just sit idly by. If NATO takes over, do we have to just sit idly and look? That is his problem. That is his problem. Ukraine is seeking a clear time to join NATO, and Russia's deputy foreign minister, Sergei Ryabakov, yeah, it's very difficult to pronounce their names, explained, for us, it's absolutely mandatory to ensure Ukraine never ever become a member of NATO. That is their goal. That is their target. Ukraine should not become the member of NATO. President Putin has also argued that if Ukraine joined NATO, the alliance might try to recapture Crimea. 2014, they annexed Crimea. So if NATO takes position in the Ukraine, they may take back. That is the fear. That is the fear of Putin. And Russia today, how it has occupied, what is the position today? If you see that, these are all the areas Russia has already, the troops have occupied these territories. And Kharkiv is one of the largest states of Ukraine. And even, Belarus, Chernobyl. And they are very close to Kiev, the capital city. And they're warning the civilians to leave immediately. See, they wanted to take over the Kiev. Will they take over or not? That is yet to see. But they are very close. They are surrounded Kiev capital. So, my friends, Russia is almost in control because no one is coming to the aid of Ukraine. There is reasons for it. Here, day 7, this is a time. Who controls what in Ukraine? Here you will see this, all these things, even the south and east and everything, how they are attacking from every side. Even this is a Belarus, from there they are attacking. Because Belarus is a part of, it is a puppet government to the Putin. So they are supporting Russia out and out. And here is Crimea, it is their part. And here this is Donetsk and Luhansk. All these things, they are controlled by Russia. So it is very easy for them to enter into this Luhansk and Donetsk and this Crimea and here Belarus. So it is very easy for them to do that. And now, my friends, the refugee crisis is increasing. UN has said more than 1 million people fled from Ukraine. More than 1 million people. How horrible, the small little children and with the families, old people. It is a horrible. I don't know how Putin must be seeing all these things. He must have hardened his heart like a pharaoh. And they are here in the Poland and Slovakia and Hungary, Romania, and these are the main places where they are going into more than 1 million people, my friends. Yeah, and here it is, the hidden agenda of President Putin. This is a Time magazine. Here you just see this title, Rising Tsar. Rising Tsar. I'll let you know what is Tsar. For the past several months, Ukraine and its Western partners have been watching Russia methodically build up a powerful force of over 100,000 soldiers on their shared borders. While he claims not to intended an invasion, President Vladimir Putin has several objectives to attack. First, he denied, I'm not going to do that. I have come only to help Luhansk and Donetsk because we wanted to see them freedom in their country. We wanted to recognize those two as independent, sovereign nations. That's all. But his hidden agenda, there are several. Few of them I noted. He wants to appear strong and decisive in his domestic base. He's like a dictator, like Adolf Hitler, Stalin. He want to become the strong man of Russia. And he want to create a greater Russia annexing other countries. It is not just Ukraine. He wanted to take the old, Russian after disintegration. The countries, they have separated. He wanted to slowly, one by one, he wanted to capture. Divide the US and NATO. This is his main purpose. Over the response to a potential strike, impress his allies, especially President Xi Jinping of China. See, when they both are separated, they can enjoy the benefits. As long as NATO and US are close, there is always a threat to China or Russia, any part of the world. To prevent Ukraine from joining NATO and EU, trying them Russia's sphere of influence. This is his agenda. The Ukraine should have the Russian influence, not the NATO or European Union. They should not join. And most important is he wanted to make Biden administration very weak and indecisive. You all know that, after evacuation from Afghanistan, it has lost the credentials. And Putin wants to make it more weaker so that it may not be a superpower anymore. Tsar, I said the Tsar, an emperor of Russia before 1970, the communism has taken over. Tsar Nicholas II is a person. He was king of the then Russia. So he wants to become the king. That is at times, that is one of the most trusted and very authenticated magazine in the world, Time magazine. And they presented him as a rising Tsar. So he is going to be a dictator. He is going to be a dictator. See, US before 1991. This is the US before 1991, before disintegration. This is what Putin mind. He wanted to make the greater Russia. Disintegration of USSR. Now you see all these 15 nations has become separated. See, he wanted to slowly take all these nations and make a greater Russia. It is not just Ukraine that will return to Russia's orbit, says Alexei, the former Soviet army commander. Their aim is on Poland, Hungary, and Bulgaria as well. That is immediate target. All the countries that used to be on our side before 1991. My friends, this is the main intention of this man. Putin already warned the West. If any foreign nations intervene, he is going to use nuclear weapons. That's the reason people don't want to go for the nuclear war. He's a madman. He can do anything. He can do anything. That may turn into World War III. So that's the reason they are very slow. They are having that patience. So he warned about this nuclear war. If we see in the world who is having the nuclear warheads, Russia is having the more warheads than anyone. That is 6,500, whereas United States is having 6,185 warheads. All of the nuclear warheads in the world, Russia and US are having almost 90+%. France is having nuclear, China, United Kingdom, Pakistan, India, Israel, North Korea. These are all have nuclear. And these are hosting US nuclear weapons. This Italy, Turkey, Belgium, Germany, Netherlands. 5 nations. So my friends, world is in very danger. Today, the question is, will it lead to World War III? Will it lead to World War III? The leaders are afraid. As I was coming up, I saw the BBC News, CNN News, talking about this, World War III, the discussions. My friends, we are living in the most dangerous situation. Economy has gone. Especially Russia's economy is gone. Ruble almost 30% down. But still he is not bothered about it. And all these things, why I'm sharing, the economy has to go in such a way down to the earth so that it can attack Israel to loot, according to Ezekiel 38-39. So the things are getting ready, my friends. And what happens tomorrow, we don't know. And what I would say, with all my little bit of experience, it is a dress rehearsal of Ezekiel 38-39, a Russian invasion of nation Israel. This is what it's going to be. We are at the verge of this invasion also. If you think about Israel, Israel did not participate in UN Security Council voting against Russia because they know anyway Russia is going to veto that. But now it is leaned towards condemning Russia in United Nations General Assembly. So that means it is coming as the enemy of Russia. See, all these things, when you see, it is a real dress rehearsal, a final rehearsal of a live show. It might take place this year. May not be immediately this year, it might take place. Because everything is ready for this war. Russia and its allies, Syria, Iran, they're all stationed close to Israel border, just 40 kilometers from Israel's north border. And previously Benjamin Netanyahu and even Bennett Naftali, they met Putin. They were having a kind of green signal. It is not really consent, but he said he will not intervene when Israel retaliate to Hamas and Hezbollah in the Syrian borders also. But later they have warned Israel very recently. They cannot tolerate the human loss. They cannot tolerate. So, which means if Israel is retaliating, then Russia will take over. Excuse me, the battery is running low. Just a minute. It stopped, Chairman.